Sing out, let it ring. The world is waiting for our song. Oh, we're connected by heart. The wireless connected. Feel the energy flow.
Today we are tackling something every small business owner needs to hear: compliance. And of course, you might think this is, the last thing on your mind when you're starting a business, but let me tell you, it keeps your hustle safe. And today we are joined by Anezka van Nierkerk from LabourNet, right here in GQ. A very warm welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited.
Oh, fantastic. First of all, I want us to start straight in terms of what is your role? Give us a feel of what is your role all about and how is that looking?
All right. So I'm a business development consultant at LabourNet, and I work closely with business owners and decision makers, and I identify their compliance gaps, potential risks, and their operational needs within their organizations.
And then for someone who's listening for the first time and to hear the first time, LabourNet, what is LabourNet all about and what service do you guys provide to businesses?
So LabourNet actually recently celebrated their 30 years of supporting businesses across South Africa, navigating their labour legislation and compliance through practical, tailored solutions. That's critical to running a compliant and productive working environment. And ultimately, our focus isn't just compliance. It's also about helping organizations achieve their broader operational and strategic goals through our practical solutions, which includes information compliance that we are discussing today, labour law, occupational health and safety, payroll, and then the transformation cluster, which consists of, as most of us know, skills development, employment equity, BE, and then your training interventions.
I want us to actually get into that. Can you please, LabourNet, what solutions do they, bring around to these acts? And can you also please briefly explain what these acts are and why they matters to businesses?
All right, so in our discussion today for the information compliance, there are 3 different acts which fall under that law, which is your POPI, your PAIA, and your CPA.
Okay.
Now, these laws came into effect of July 2020, and it mandates all private and public bodies to secure, manage, and process data lawfully while balancing privacy rights. So the most popular one is POPI, your Protection of Personal Information Act, which governs how you collect and store information within your organization. And that is any data from staff, whether they are family members or not, that is irrelevant.
Okay.
Customers and suppliers. And then PAIA, which is your Promotion of Access to Information Act, gives people the right to request information that your business holds.
Okay.
And lastly, we've got the Consumer Protection Act, which ensures that businesses act responsibly and transparently by promoting fair, accessible and sustainable marketplaces by protecting consumers from unfair practices, unsafe products and misleading marketing.
Now, many small businesses might think that, compliance is for, the big corporate. How do these laws apply to small business, your SMEs, as well as, startups?
Honestly, I think that is one of the most dangerous myths out there. Law doesn't have a small business exemption.
Okay.
Information compliance applies the moment that you're collecting data. And the CPA applies the moment that you're making a sale. If anything, small businesses are more vulnerable, right? Because your larger corporates ideally have these legal departments or compliance teams that guide them and assist them in terms of what needs to be implemented and how we are implementing it. Whereas SMEs may not have access to that type of support, or they think it doesn't apply to them, right? They're not aware of their legal obligations and they don't know what they don't know. And I think that's also why I'm here today, is to make business owners aware of the risk around information compliance specifically today.
And what are some of the biggest risk for small businesses if they choose to ignore, information compliances with these acts?
Well, in today's digital environment where data privacy regulations and compliance standards continue to tighten, maintaining information compliance specifically is more important than ever.
Okay.
Non-compliance with this act may not only result in your penalties, which can be up to 10 million rand or 3-year imprisonment. The information regulator has actually recently partnered with CICP, which is now flagging non-compliant companies, and this status is publicly visible on the Biz portal. And this is putting business reputation at risk, and it also means that your business is potentially at risk of being deregistered if you're non-compliant.
Okay. I want to get into the practical side of things. How does POPI Act protect customer data? And also, what are some of the practical steps should small businesses take into, compiling?
So POPI is really about being responsible with the data within your organization.
Okay.
Whether it's people filling in forms, buying something online, or giving you their number. They're really entrusting you with that personal data.
Okay.
So small businesses should ideally start with identifying what data do I have within my business and where does it live? And then once that has been determined, you need to have clear privacy policies and a way for the public to request data to be removed or corrected from your platform. And you must have basic security measures in place in the event of an incident or a breach.
Yeah.
And what does your breach action plan look like? Do your staff know what to do when something goes wrong? We've recently, our information team did a in-house phishing exercise.
Yeah.
And it's quite embarrassing, but I was one of those that got caught. So although you've got all the knowledge in the world, it can happen to you.
Yeah.
And the point is, when it does, what do you do to correct it? And how do you move forward?
What are some of the stacks for companies flagged by the CIPC?
So companies that have already been flagged by CICP for non-compliance with the information regulator are 500,000 companies.
Okay.
And 800,000 companies are currently at risk of being deregistered.
And I also do have a comment from one of our listeners, and they say this stuff really sounds scary. Is it complicated and hard to maintain?
So the good news is it's not as daunting as it sounds. When you have the right partner walking through the compliance journey with you, but we will dive into how we support these businesses a bit later in the questions. So stay tuned there.
Yeah, definitely. I want to also get into the PAIA.
Yes.
What is most often misunderstood, and can you explain how it supports, transparency, and why small businesses should pay attention to it?
PAIA is actually a really powerful law. It promotes accountability and transparency. And ideally at its core, it says if a customer, employee, or a competitor wants access to information that your business holds that affects their rights, they can formally request for it. So this means that every business entity, private or public, has to have a PAIA manual. And this document explains what information you hold within your organization and how someone can request it. And it's quite scary to know how many businesses have never heard of a PAIA manual. And this is a massive risk because the regulator is actively monitoring this compliance through annual submission periods. And this window is opening up now in April. Guys, so if you don't know what a PAIA manual is, reach out to us so we can get that conversation going. And just as a reminder, failure to submit PAIA manuals can result in a 3-year imprisonment.
Oh, sounds serious.
Absolutely.
It sounds really serious. Let's talk about also the Consumer Protection Act, which is, all about customers' trust. How does this affect, the everyday operation for small businesses or companies?
So the CPA is really the customer's Bill of Rights.
Okay.
It covers everything from fair pricing to honest advertising and the right to return their goods. So what this means for small businesses is that their marketing can't be misleading. Their contracts need to be understandable in plain language. They need to have proper return policies. And they also can't charge for things that they don't disclose up front, right? And businesses that actually embrace the CPA find that it helps them because it builds customer trust. And trust leads to loyalty, and loyalty leads to referrals ultimately.
I'm also curious in terms of what are some of the common mistakes you see small businesses making when it comes to compliance or information compliance?
It's not just small businesses. I think it's businesses in general. Is they're being reactive when they could have been proactive in compliance generally. Right. So I think my favorite business owner phrase is, I'll get to it, and then something goes wrong. And I mean, we do encounter businesses that had compliance documents drawn up, way back in the day. They've never had it reviewed. And business owners must remember, law evolves, businesses evolve, and your compliance programs must keep up. I mean, we've got businesses who registered information officers and deputy officers when the Act came out. Those people are no longer with the business, and they've never updated that information, which is a risk for non-compliance.
Yes.
So those are the little things that we need to look at and make sure that you've got everything in order there.
And how does LabourNet get involved in terms of helping the businesses navigate, the compliancy requirements without even getting, feel all overwhelmed as a business?
So compliance overall is extremely overwhelming. If you don't know, you don't know. And if you don't have someone guiding you, it can lead to a lot of stress, right? So LabourNet, we help small businesses and larger businesses manage the compliance in a practical and manageable way. So we'll start off by doing a comprehensive audit, which would give the business owner a clear understanding of where you're at and what needs to be done and how are we going to do that. So you get a dedicated expert in any of those areas of legislation solutions that I mentioned in the beginning of the interview. And we then guide you step by step. So our clients really do get support with real personalized consultants who get to know your business in that area.
I think you already covered my second, the question that I was going to ask in terms of what are some of the toolkits that you guys, get into, when it comes to training? Is there like an ongoing support to ensure that, businesses stay, compliant as the law evolves?
Absolutely. So compliance isn't a one-day event. It is ongoing. And we provide all of the support and documentation to the businesses. We also include staff training so that not only certain individuals know what's happening, but that the whole team actually understands what's expected of them in terms of various legislations and what their role is in that. So basically, in a nutshell, partnering with LabourNet, you don't need to worry about keeping up with legislations. That's our job.
And would you say that that's what makes you guys different from other businesses or from other, compliance services providers? Yes,
amongst a few things. I think firstly, our track record of 30 years celebrating excellence with over 600 staff nationally and 1,300 clients across South Africa. I think that's a fantastic footprint to have. And secondly, we don't bill by the hour. We work on a retainer model, so businesses get ongoing support, and there's no surprise invoices. And I think thirdly, our consultants are specialists. It's not general legal advice that you get. It's a dedicated compliance expert that genuinely cares about the outcome of the solution that we are bringing to our clients. And our client retention rate speaks for itself. Businesses stay with us because we deliver.
If you could actually give one piece of advice for businesses, whether it's a small business or bigger owner that are actually struggling at this moment with compliancy, what would it be?
Don't wait. Don't wait for something to go wrong before you take compliance seriously. I know it seems like extra admin or a burden on top of everything else that business owners are juggling, but the truth is the cost of not being compliant is always higher than getting it right. So start somewhere. Start by having a conversation with us. Let us do an audit, evaluate where you're at, where are the biggest risks at the moment, and let's take it step by step, right, to protect your business, your reputation, and your customers. And honestly, once it's sorted, it's sorted. And partnering with LabourNet will keep you compliant. And that will allow you to get back to doing the things that you love and this reason why you started your business in the first place.
How can people get involved, reach you guys in terms of finding that information? Where can they find you?
So we are national. So if you are listening to anywhere outside of the Eastern Cape, you are welcome to visit our website, www.labournet.com, or even contacting our regional office here in PE or East London. And I'll pop my details through to you guys to share on socials should they want to contact me directly.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Hey?
Thank you for your time.
Well, what I'm finding from this conversation is that compliance isn't just about paperwork. It's protection, it's trust, and it's power. And for you as a business owner, do get involved because your hustle, your business deserve to be protected.
The wireless connected, feel the energy flow.